Now, I'm going to go through what I consider the best recruiting practices. One is you've got to write a killer job ad. All right.
Yep.
Now, thanks to ChatGPT, it's way easier than it used to be, right?
Yep.
Just go to AI and say, hey, I need a job for a project manager for an HVAC company, and it'll do it. So write the right ads, because if you're not writing the right ads, you're not going to attract the right people. They shouldn't be boring either.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Home Service Hustle. I'm your host, Jonathan Bannister, and today I'm with special guest Paul Sanneman from the contractor sourcing. Is that correct?
Close. Contractor staffing source, but you were close.
Contractor staffing source. So, right. Paul, I was recently on your podcast and learned a little bit, about what you do in the midst of you talking to me about what I do. And I thought it was super important to kind of have you on the show and let our guests kind of understand what it is that you do, because it's a huge problem where marketing and getting leads is a problem. But if you find the right marketing company to get leads and you don't have the staff to be able to fulfill those leads, it's just as big of a problem, if not bigger. So, Paul, welcome to the show. And, tell everybody a little bit about what it is that you do. And more importantly, let's get into why, because you used to be a coach.
Well, I still do a little coaching, Jonathan, but I've been coaching for 50 years. Makes me an old guy, right? I mean, I've worked with literally 2,000 companies over my 50 years of doing this. And so what happened about 3 or 4 years ago, I could help build a company from like 1 to 10 million. I probably did it, hundreds of times, but they couldn't find any people. And so it didn't do any good. If I build a company and anybody do the job, what good did it do? So my first idea, Jonathan, was, I'll find out some really cool software. So I found a really good applicant tracking system, which is a way of placing ads and automating the whole thing. And then a really good assessment, so I'll know really a lot about the person. So I gave all that software to my clients, and they totally screwed it up, right? Didn't have any time to use it. So I literally put a guy in my garage. And that was like 3 or 4 years ago, 3 years. Now I have like 25 people all over the world. We go through 3,000 resumes a week. We hire, 10, 15 people a week. We have 400 job openings, and it's worked really well. So I've sort of like tuned down on the coaching and focused on the recruiting, because it seems to be a big problem. And there's a couple things that I call the myths of recruiting, and that is most contractors just sort of suck at recruiting. It's not something they're really good at.
Let's talk about that while we're on. Why do you think that is?
Well, I'm going to look up something here really quick. I have what's called the myths of recruiting. I'm going to do this. So there's a couple of myths that people believe in. One is only recruit when you need someone, right? So they come to us and say, oh my God, I need a project manager. I started the job next week. My guy just quit. I'm screwed. Find me somebody. Well, duh. I mean, that's going to take like 3 months, right? So right. You need to recruit all the time. The other ones, employees are expensive, right? Employees are an asset. You can't make any money without them. So they think employees are expensive, so they wait too long and think employees are expensive. Next, they think they can do it themselves. They think, well, how hard? I put an ad in Indeed, call the guy 3 weeks later. What's hard about this, right? And the truth is, they have subcontracts, everything else. They have subcontractors for, electrical, plumbing, accounting, even fixing their car. Why they think they can magically be a recruiting company, I don't know, but they do.
Right.
And so they usually suck at it. And it's the most important thing they do. And this is an easy industry if you can recruit the right people and have the right clients, right? But if your employees aren't very good and your clients are difficult, it's really hard. So I think you should be recruiting all the time and marketing all the time. And you can do it yourself, but we can do for $1,200 a month what it would take you almost a full-time person to do, because we automate everything, right? Use a lot of AI and that kind of stuff. It just makes it easier. The other one they have, a myth, is they recruit in the construction industry only, which is wrong.
Okay.
I mean, I'll give you an example. During the pandemic, the hospitality industry sucked. It was really bad, right? And so think about a wedding planner, right? A wedding planner versus, I'm going to call it a production coordinator, right? So a wedding planner has to get a bunch of flaky people together. The band, the flower person, the venue, all these rather questionable industries all have to show up at the same place at the same time. It's all got to work. It's got to look good, and they got to make everybody happy.
Right.
It sounds like a remodel to me, right? So that skill set, we've hired some killer production coordinators that were wedding planners, right? Because they have the skill set. You can change people what people know, but you can't change who they are.
That's right.
So recruiting outside the industry makes total sense, and I got to convince people the other one. The other myth is hire fast, fire slow, which is just the opposite. What they do is they find some guy or lady, they're desperate, they hire them, right, because they need them yesterday. They don't vet them appropriately. They don't assess them. They just hire them. And they become the world's worst employee. Now, Jonathan, the world's worst employee is somebody who's not bad enough to fire or good enough to keep. They're purgatory, right?
Yeah.
And they kill an organization because if you hire somebody like
me, I've had many, and you don't feel it, Paul. Like what you're saying is you don't really feel it because it's like, well, there's not enough spotlight on them that you need to get rid of them. They're not.
I would call it an insidious kind of thing, right? Because what happens is, let's say they just show up late and lie and trash the company. 3 minor things, right? So you hire them. You're not going to see them lie or catch at them. They're going to trash the company. You probably won't find that out. And they sort of lower the standards of everybody else, right?
Right.
And so the other employees are going, wow, this person shows up late. He still gets paid. He lied. I guess I could lie. And he's trashing the company and he's still here. So I guess that's okay. So it takes your corporate values and messes them up, right?
Yep.
And that's really hard on the organization. And yet some of you don't even see until it's too late. And so it's really important that you find the right people. And so you hire slow, which means you take a long time to find the right person. And then you fire fast, man. If they're not the right guy or lady, they should be gone. You can lay them off, you can fire them, but it depends on what state you're in. Sometimes it's harder and easier to fire people, but they'll kill your organization, all right? Yes. And the other myth is recruiting is a project. Unfortunately, contractors' brain thinks like projects, right? It has a beginning, it has a middle, and it has an end, like a house, remodel. So I think recruiting does the same thing. They think recruiting has a beginning, I need a project manager, or I need a whatever, carpenter. A middle, I'll look for this person, and boom, I'm done, right? Both marketing and recruiting are ongoing processes. You don't ever stop.
Right.
And so if you're recruiting all the time, which means you're always finding and building a great team, and you're marketing all the time, which shows you're finding great clients, then if you have great clients and a great team, this is an awesome industry. But if you don't, it sort of sucks, right? I'm sure you've been there. Now, Jonathan, tell me an example of, you don't have to give the person's name, but somebody who was that purgatory employee, just for fun.
Oh, yeah. I've had many account managers, unfortunately, that have worked for me that, you know, you can, to some of our clients, they're great, right? Because they do everything I need to do. Or, you know, like if I call them, they're there, but they're not proactive. You know, they're not going to take the initiative to be 1% better every single day. So as time starts going on and some other rock star people come in, it really makes them look like, wow, they're nowhere in the same category as, you know, some of these other account managers that are taking it on their own initiative to learn and grow and to get better. Right. And so when you look back and look, I deal with this, Paul, with our clients where they tell us, well, we have, we've got techs that are amazing tech. They can fix anything. I'm like, well, those are the worst, right? Because the ones that can fix anything take pride in that. So they won't go out and give options to the customer is what they should do. You don't have to hard sell them and go, well, you need a new air conditioning system. No, you are transparent with the customer and you say, listen, there is a great chance that I can fix this system. It's 15 years old. I can put a Band-Aid on it, but the problem is, you know, it only costs you $600 to put this part on, but there's no guarantees when I leave here, one problem after another is going to happen. I'm going to fix this one, but the system's very old. So But the technicians that are prideful and can fix anything, they won't even give the customer options. And say,
they'll take pride in the fix. They can put a Band-Aid on it and it still works, right?
Yes. And I say, I tell the client, well, and they're like, well, they say they wouldn't have any of this other add-on stuff, any of the indoor air quality. They wouldn't put it in their own home, so they won't talk about it. And I'm like, someone's air quality is completely what someone believes is important of air quality to them may not be as near as important as this person put it in. Like, you don't know what kind of allergies or sicknesses or dogs and cats that this family has that they would appreciate understanding or having. So those people can be detrimental to your business, but they go, well, they're at work every day. They've been with us for 15 years. They can fix anything. And I'm like, well, it sounds to me like they're not making you money. They're not offering and selling your product. They're not even following the instructions or the policies that you have in place. So I think, what kind of advice do you give to people when they do have some of those purgatory employees that you're saying?
Well, one of the things we do is we have a way, it's called key performance indicators. You should always review your employees once a year, once a quarter, whatever, and find out, there's two ways an employee can work. One's a values fit. Like, do they say the same values, honesty, integrity, tell the truth, be transparent? They have those values. And the second one is, do they have performance? Can they sell? Can they fix stuff? Are they the right person for the job? And those are two, like on a matrix. If you look at a matrix, everybody should be in the right-hand corner of the matrix, which means they should be able to have a performance fit and an integrity fit. If they don't, they should be gone. One of the things I tell my clients is that if you're going to start your company over, I'll ask you this, Jonathan, if you're going to start your company over and everybody was gone, is there anybody you wouldn't rehire?
Is there anybody that I would rehire?
Would not rehire without thinking about it. Like you'd rehire everybody. Is there anybody on your team that you wouldn't immediately rehire?
Like for something that they've done?
No, just because you're looking at your team, right? You're starting a company over, right, Jonathan?
Okay.
And now you've got the choice.
Oh, I see what you're saying. So I'm shutting down Cornerstone. I'm going to create a new one. Which people from my old company would I 100% bring over?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Is there anybody that you wouldn't?
Right now, I would probably say no. Right this second, right? If you asked me this 6 months ago, there would have been a lot. Well, we've been cleaning house and really trying to rebuild.
I believe that anybody that you wouldn't rehire, you should fire.
Okay.
Just as a simple rule of thumb. The other thing, Jonathan, you brought up the marketing thing. I believe that most successful companies in Western civilization are marketing companies that fund their marketing with a product or service. And a lot of contractors don't get that, right? Because just like you brought up the guy who couldn't sell and just fix the stuff, your marketing people or the guys in the house, right? They're out there. They're the ones that are going to find you the work. And you have to do what's best for the client. But if they don't mention it, then the client's never going to know.
Yeah.
And you can have a tech that's costing you, $50,000 a year on stuff he didn't even mention. So I think it's really important. So you should always look at your employees, make sure there's a performance fit and a value fit, right? And the other thing is you need to go through, a vetting process. I still look at this sheet. There's several things that you should do, if I can go through here really quickly, about in order to the hiring process. Now, AI has made this a whole lot easier than it used to be. I would say that there's a certain procedure that you follow when you're going through the hiring process. I can pick this up really quick. And that is, you've got to, run the, let me look up through really quick since I'm going through this. Hold on, I can find it out. Let's see, where is it?
While you're looking for that, I was talking to a buddy of mine yesterday. We were at the gym and we were talking about hiring and recruiting, and his brother-in-law works as an executive for a big Fortune 500 company. Mm-hmm. He does a lot of the recruiting for them and, hiring hundreds and hundreds of people. And he said, I asked him, he goes, I said, how do you make some of these decisions? Like when to let certain people go? And he said, I kind of live by this, which is if there's any doubt, there's no doubt. And
that's a good way to look at it.
I started processing that, and it's like, well, when you are like, if you're having an internal struggle or an internal conversation with your team about a certain person, and there's these issues or these things going on, and maybe there's a process for how you may, put them on, some kind of program or something but like at the end of the day, if you are struggling, if there's a problem, like, there's a reason there's that problem. And so in one of my private groups last night, I saw one of the members say, hey, we're having a problem. One of our account managers, it appears that like they're drunk on the job. Like on the Zoom calls, you can tell that they're slurring their words, and we're good. We're afraid that they're having these same Zoom meetings with our accounts like this, and it's like, and I put that out there. I said, hey, I just heard this today, like if there's any doubt, there's no doubt. And,
absolutely.
I think it's not easy. Like, firing people sucks.
Well, people don't want to go through the emotional pain of letting someone go. They'd rather suffer through the years of agony of them doing a marginal job. And there's a saying that you can't send your ducks to Eagle School or you'll die trying. And you can't make a banana an apple, man. If they're not the right person, you can't fix that. That's right. You just need to admit it and move on. And you may not have found out for a couple of months, but you need to do that. Now, I'm going to go through what I consider the best recruiting practices. One is you've got to write a killer job ad. All right.
Yep.
Now, thanks to ChatGPT, it's way easier than it used to be. Right.
Yep.
Just go to AI and say, hey, I need a job for a project manager for an HVAC company in Duluth, Tennessee, wherever, and it'll do it. So, write the right ads, because if you're not writing the right ads, you're not going to attract the right people. They shouldn't be boring either. They should be interesting. And talk about the company. And also on your website, you should have some stuff about recruiting, like why you're a great company to work for. Because, there's an internal sale and external sale, Jonathan. The internal sales, you've got to sell people in working for you. It isn't like they're lucky they have a job, right?
That's right.
They need to want to work for you, right? Now,
but there was a time, like 10 years ago, 8 years ago, that it was more of a employers market, right? Like, there was that big pool of people to pick through, and it was almost, you're lucky that you're working here. But those times, I think,
those times have gone.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
And I've been through some numbers like 40 or 50% of the workforce in construction's over 45. Everybody's aging. There's 30% leaving and 20% coming in. It's really bad. I mean, nobody wants to, how many kids say, I want to be a carpenter when I grow up? They want to be a computer programmer, right? And so the trades, it's really hard to find good carpenters, electricians, plumbers. I mean, I'd rather find a project manager than a good carpenter, because the trades, there's less and less people that want to go in there because it isn't a cool job, right?
Now, but I know you said we can talk about all kinds of things, and we're going to. That when we talk about AI, do you think that there's a time that's coming in our lifetime where the skill set of, let's say, a carpenter, that a machine will be able to do it as quick or faster and as precise?
Well, I think, there was I think it was a South Park, right? And the guy was trying, it was funny. He said he was trying to fix his stove, and he says, I'm going to show my kids how to fix a stove, right? Gets on the phone and calls a handyman, right? And says, Siri, can you fix my phone? And Siri says, I don't have any arms, sir. I can't do that, right? So, it's that way. So I think the first thing to replace, for example, I've got an HVAC person I know who uses AI to call and schedule appointments, and also call and schedule, inspections and that kind of thing. I was talking to the guy the other day, and AI can actually call a person and say, and AI can talk like a real person. There's a little delay, but they're probably going to fix it. So within the next 6 months, you will not be knowing whether you're talking to AI or not.
Yeah. I've been on some of those conversations, and you don't know.
So if you are somebody who's selling information, you're either a customer service person, you're an attorney, you're a doctor, you're somebody who's giving advice over the phone, I would say AI can replace you.
Right.
If you actually physically are doing something, it's going to be a long time, because robots suck. They can't put a house together. So I would say the industries that where it's customer service or attorneys or doctors or anybody who's giving you information for money, there's going to be an AI attorney going to call. You're going to tell them the state, the contract you need, and it'll give you the thing for $5 and you're done. You don't have to pay $5,000, right? You're going to be calling a doctor, and he's going to say, these are my symptoms. You'll probably stick your finger in some kind of a device. It'll do a total analytics of your body, and it'll say, this is probably what you need to do. So, for a long time, we've withheld information for ransom, for lack of a better term. You know what I mean? Like, you got to go to the right schools, you have to have the right degree and that kind of thing in order that I can charge you, $3,000, whatever, $300 or $400 an hour for my advice. I think those people are the first to go.
Yeah.
And it's already using in like setting up appointments, doing any kind of customer interface, that kind of stuff. I mean, I just paid my boat insurance the other day. I never talked to a person. I just talked to AI. They said, hi, how can I help you? I said, I need to pay. And they said, we have a credit card. And I had this whole conversation with some kind of computer and I was done. I never talked to a person.
So I know, Paul, you've got a bachelor's degree in political science, a master's degree in education. So when I read that in your bio, I was super curious of what is your thoughts and feelings today on education compared to where they were?
Now, if I said college was a waste of time, it'd probably be an overstatement. But you meet the right people, that's good. You have the right relationships. But as far as transfer information, I can get any information I want on anything on the internet in real time. I can attend MIT, I can attend Harvard, I find the best people in the world. I have a fascination with quantum physics. I can listen to the best quantum physicists on the planet for free anytime I want to. So I think the traditional view of education of sitting in a classroom, listening to somebody lecture to you, that's got to go away. But the interaction you have with people, I mean, it's funny. Like I look at, you probably saw Ready Player One, right, Jonathan?
Yes.
Okay. My son's 13. He spends 2 or 3 hours a day playing with his friends and nobody's here, right? And he's got friends all over the world. They're all playing, video games, right? Fortnite or whatever, but nobody's here.
Yeah.
We're already there. It's done, right? His friends are all virtual in different places on the planet. So I think that is here. And if you look at AI, I mean, AI just started publicly, probably January this year when ChatGPT came out, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's not even a year. Look what's happened. It's insane. In less than a year. I can now get a legal document. We start doing we screen applicants with AI the first time through. You write job descriptions back to, that kind of stuff. In fact, I'm going to come back into best recruiting practice with AI. One is you got to write killer ads. You can use AI to do that, right? You can use AI where do you post the ads? You got to post them everywhere, not just one place. You got to put them on 100 job boards, LinkedIn, Facebook. You got to search LinkedIn. The key thing is you got to respond in minutes or hours, not days. A typical contractor, he puts an ad in Indeed and calls it back a week later. It's like a marketing program. Somebody calls and wants an HVAC unit and you call them back a week later. How's that going to work?
Yeah. Speed to lead, we call it, and it needs to happen immediately. So, we've been using automation for years because we want to make sure that a text message or something minimum goes out almost instantaneously.
So literally when somebody applies, they get within seconds, they get an instantaneous, and then they also we respond like immediately to people because the good people are gone. Now the selection process, screening, back to AI. I can know more about you than your mom, Jonathan. Swear to God. I've got some assessments that are amazing. I can tell if you're honest. I can tell how smart you are. I can if you're good at stuff. We have all these predictive assessments. So we've done thousands of these. So they're predictive disc assessments, which means I know if you have the right personality, the right intelligence, the right skills, the right values to do any job. And I can tell that before I meet you. And it's just getting better. So assessments are crucial because, why wouldn't you use them? And they're not expensive. You can get them for maybe, $1,500 a piece. We give them free with what we do, but it's important they use assessments. The other one is, you got to screen people. Once you do the assessments, you got to do a video interview. We have a video interview thing we use in our system, but we ask certain questions. So you screen people. with an assessment. You do a video interview, which you can do in doesn't have to be real time. We have questions you can ask, and there's other systems that will do that. So you do an interview, and then you do reference checks. I literally had a guy, Jonathan, who hired a bookkeeper who embezzled him, right? And so he hired another bookkeeper. He got embezzled again. He went to the DA's office. And the DA said, "Didn't you realize this person was embezzled for leaving their last job?" They got literally fired for embezzlement on their last job. He didn't check it out. Crazy, right? And then you got to do background checks. So this is just basically stuff you need to do. And AI's made it a lot easier, but you still got to do it. Otherwise, you're not going to get the right team players. And you always need to build a bench, right? You always have, like any sports team is always building a bench.
That's right.
And then the key players know if they don't stay good, they're going to be gone.
So what is your advice there? Because I strongly agree. We stay overstaffed at all times, making sure that we have the right people on our team and we're building the future of our growth is their training and getting on the job training instead of trying to, like you said earlier, I need a project manager. We just got a new job. It starts in 2 weeks. It's like, well, you should have started this a year ago, 6 months ago. So what do you tell those people that say, Paul, that's a lot of money just to hire someone and have them on our payroll when we don't even have a place for them right now? Well,
I have the same problem with recruiting all the time, right? So my biggest problem, Jonathan, was we're really good at what we do, and people would come with us for 3 months and they'd leave, and they'd always leave for the same reason. You found everybody, they're awesome, we love you guys, we'll call you when we need you. So I had to change my financing structure. So Jonathan, you want to work with us a month at a time, it's $3,000. You want to work with us a quarter, it's $2,500. You want to sign up for a year, it's $1,200 a month. Because the only I could do was make it so financially incentive, right? To where you're crazy not to do it on an annual basis because it's so much cheaper. Right. And that's the only way I can convince people to do it. Because if it's such a low number, like $200 a month, it's sort of justified, because I need to always be looking for people, which is true. Because, a bad employee is really expensive. You've probably been there, right? A bad employee can easily cost you 10 times their wages. If they do something wrong, right? You could get sued. You could get, who knows what could happen. So bad employees usually cost, I've taken the number, $40,000, $50,000 for the wrong guy or woman. So you don't want to make mistakes. So it's just best practices to be recruiting all the time. Make sure you got the right people, be evaluating people. Again, AI can say, write key performance indicators for an HVAC technician in Boston, and it'll do it for you. But you have to do it.
I think a lot of business owners have heard that saying, we're going to spend all this money on training and bringing in these consultants or this new software or whatever. And they're like, what if we spend all this money and the employee leaves us? And they're like, well, what happens if you don't and they stay? I think people understand that concept. They understand that there could be wasted money on the wrong people that are in the wrong seats, or if you have them undertrained or undereducated, then they're working a job that they could be better at if you in fact gave them the tools to do so. But I don't think people think on the front end of what happens if we hire the wrong people. What if we hire fast, fire slow? Now listen, I used to hire wrong and fire slow. Then I went to the hire slow, fire fast. Or no, is that what it is? Hire slow, fire fast?
That's what you should do, yeah.
And now it's like we are so methodical about how we're going to bring on the right people and with our assessment tests and things, because we have learned that, man, it is detrimental. And it's not only like a financial burden, but when you have the wrong people working with some of the right people, it could, you need A players need to be around other A players.
It kills an organization. Absolutely. And one of the things that's interesting, I've been doing this for, like I said, 50 years. Most construction companies don't have a marketing or recruiting budget, which, insane as that seems, right? I mean, you can get them to spend money on a backhoe, no problem, or a new cool truck. But you try to get them to spend money on project management software or marketing software, recruiting software, and they go, that's really expensive. They have this physical kind of mentality, right? They're used to touching the stuff. And trying to get them to spend money on something that's not physical is really hard to do. Yet, when you think about it, what's the most important asset you've got? It's your team.
That's right.
That's it. And yet, when you think, why shouldn't you spend money on building your team versus buying a new truck? Well, they got no problem spending $50,000, $60,000 on buying a new truck, and they won't spend $14,000 on finding the right people. I mean, come on, right? But it's just sort of
typically your biggest expense, overhead expense in the company. Is
it is
be
people.
Yeah, right.
But when you look at how many companies you've worked a lot of companies, how many companies have at the beginning of the year a substantial recruiting budget and marketing budget?
Not many at all.
Right. And you know what's more important than good customers and good employees?
And the ones that do, I bet you that you've even seen, like the ones that do have that in place are the biggest, most well put together companies. They have probably a recruiting arm of their company where they do it internally. They're always recruiting, not always hiring. They're always recruiting. And if they find the right person, they're hiring. And I think what's helped with our industry, Paul, I know a couple of my clients have done it, is they have taken up some of these big, well put together HVAC companies around the country that the owners have opened up their doors to other HVAC people to come in and take tours and stuff. And they're learning. They're learning to do it the right way. And so that's kind of helped us when we're having this conversation of, hey, what is your marketing budget for the year? Like, where did you get these numbers from? And they're like, well, we're doing it this way because we went to this place in this state and we went to this company and we kind of learned how they were doing things. So I think if a lot of business owners, no matter if they're in the construction place or, any type of industry, like try to go find a competitor that's willing, maybe they're in a different market. So it's not really.
And also somebody who you respect, not only, fiscally, but also emotionally, morally, agrees with you, that kind of thing. I have a saying, Jonathan, you can stay in business as long as you can afford to pay for your mistakes.
Yeah, there you go. I love that.
And so a lot of guys, expensive mistakes are the wrong client. You took on somebody you really shouldn't take on, you get sued or they don't pay. Happens all the time because you're desperate. You haven't got a good marketing plan, so you can't be selective. Or you haven't got a recruiting plan and you take on some employee who's marginal and they end up messing things up or bringing your whole company down. So I highly recommend that anybody in the construction industry, this is a good time to think about it. What is your recruiting budget? How much are you going to spend to find the right people? And then what is your marketing budget? How much are you going to spend to find the right clients? And if you don't have either of those budgets, you're probably not a very successful company.
I love that. Because they are. Your customers and your employees are the two most important people in your business.
Right. And yet when you think about it, they don't have any, they'll go buy a new truck, they'll go, whatever, but they won't say, okay, what is my recruiting plan? And I said, we've $1,200 a month. We can find out people want. It doesn't cost much, right? And the same thing with marketing. You can get a good marketing plan. So you're going to spend, pick a number, 3 to 5% of your gross, 5% to find the right clients. But unfortunately, a lot of people go broke, like 9 out of 10 go broke in the construction industry within the first, 3 to 5 years, because they don't do that. They have to make the transition, a lot I talk about, from a craftsman to an entrepreneur.
Well, because they're going from they have a job, right? They're working that job, and they're not thinking the day that job starts, where's the next job going to come from? Well, this is a 2-year project. Who cares? You should be backfilling and making sure that you've got work constantly in the pipeline, because when that job's coming to an end, you're going to have to start laying people off. And then when the next job comes, they're going to call Paul and go, hey, I need a project manager tomorrow.
Right. I mean, I would say, John, the problem is when you think about what makes a good craftsman, it isn't the same that makes a good entrepreneur. A good craftsman, is focused on, like the guy at the air conditioning company. He's going to come in, he's going to fix the air conditioner. He has that skill to make something that should fall apart work, right? And he's going to put Band-Aids on whatever, he's going to make it work. So that's a craftsman kind of mentality, right? I can see the pieces, I can put all the pieces together, I can make the wall straight, I can make the air conditioner work, I can make whatever. I have a great craft, right? I can paint well, I can do whatever. That's a different mentality than an entrepreneur, which is looking a year ahead, not an hour ahead.
Yeah.
And there's a thing I think, I forget where I learned it from, it's called time windows. People look at with, sort of windows of time. And if you look at it, your time horizon, if you're an entrepreneur, your time horizon is a year. You're saying, where are you going to be next year? What's going to look like next year? And you're thinking a year in advance. And those are the people who make most money. Also have the most fun. If you're a craftsman, your time horizon might be like 3 weeks or a week. Like, what's my next job? Where am I going to go tomorrow? And and probably the lowest is somebody who's in survival, like a bum, and he's thinking, well, or she's thinking, can I be alive tomorrow and not sleep in the park, right?
Yeah.
So, the further time horizon you have, generally the more fun you have and the more money you make. You just have to look further in advance. But a lot of a craftsman time horizon is way different than an entrepreneurial time horizon.
So you come from the coaching world. You've coached hundreds of companies. Do you find in the construction world, like, is home service across the board kind of the same, to where traditionally the owners of these companies came from craftsmen? Like, they worked in the field for someone else and then kind of said, like, hell, I can do this myself.
Well, most people don't graduate from Stanford saying, I want to own a plumbing company.
Okay. That's what I was.
Now, they may not say, I'm going to roll up a plumbing industry, right? And I'm going to put a roll-up company and put a fund together and buy 40 plumbing companies. They can do that. But they don't. This is a very craftsman-oriented construction, especially. People that go into construction 9 times out of 10, or maybe nine times, a lot, come from the trades. They either get laid off, they get upset with their boss, they think they can do it better. Well, you pick a number, and they decide, I'm going to do this. And so they go from a plumber, an HVAC person. I know what your background is, but very seldom do people graduate with an MBA in business to decide to start a construction company. Just doesn't happen.
Yeah.
So the industry is really, recruiting it sucks, marketing sucks as an industry. Because like software companies, people think I'm going to drop $1 million before I make $1, right? And in construction companies, I'm going to go to work today. I want to make money today. They don't think about investing at all. It's not even in their brain, right? Mm-hmm. So when you take a craftsman mentality, it really makes a bad entrepreneur. You know what I mean? And that's why so many of these businesses are suffering, because the craftsmen don't work on themselves to make that transition from a craftsman to an entrepreneur. They don't take the courses, and it's all for free. I mean, you get everything, guy or a coach. I mean, any good company has a coach, right? Any good athlete has a coach. There's all kinds of available. You can listen to your podcast. I mean, there's credible information available that they can get better at what they do. They just have to know to ask the right questions.
Yeah.
It's not, how do I put in an air conditioning unit? Is, how do I build an air conditioning unit sales company, which is an entirely different question. Yeah.
So Paul, how did you get into, you've been doing it for 50 years, you said, but like with your pedigree, your background in, political science and educations, metaphysics, like how did you get to training contractors that got pissed at their boss and decided they were going to go start?
Well, I tell you, I started out, first place I was a 60s kid, right? If you can remember the 60s, you weren't there, right? So so I did my share of experimenting, all right? And so what happened was I started out, I took a bunch of like civil mind control and, EST and all those like growth group courses and that kind of thing. And I graduated, I was going to become a college counselor, but the school system sucked, man. It was not fun, right? So I went into insurance, life insurance. I made a ton of money, but I got an ulcer when I was like 24. So I decided, well, I need to search what's fun. And I used to do defenders. I used to do like attorneys and doctors. And no offense to that group of people, generally contractors are the highest integrity group of people I've ever dealt with as a group. If you look at, a lot of other industries, they attract people that have less than high moral standards. I remember sitting in a board meeting and go, well, this is going to screw all the, our clients, we're going to make a bunch of money. Let's do it. And I went, how can you do that? Right.
Yeah.
And I worked for hospitals, I worked for doctors, I worked for all corporations, and I just couldn't get behind the value structure they were playing. So I found contractors are really, as a group, really good people. They're honest, they tell the truth, and they're the kind of people I'd want to have to dinner. So I just started working with contractors because I liked them. I had a dental company. I built one of the largest dental management companies in California. I think I had the 5th largest mortgage company in California. I've been like a serial entrepreneur. But what I find is a group of people, I just love contractors, just great human beings.
Yeah.
And so I want to work with them because they're fun to work with. They tell the truth. They're honest. They may be a little ignorant, but at least they're good people. So that's why I chose contractors.
I love that. And I guess I've never really been able to pinpoint, what it is. But I love this industry for the people that I get to work around. And you're right. Like, I've become super close with some of our clients to the point where I call them like real friends of mine. I go on vacations, my family and I travel.
The same thing. And, couldn't pull it off with attorneys, couldn't pull it off with doctors.
Yep.
The education system, I couldn't get it. I mean, like, come on, if you can't do, teach, right? And so I've spent my whole life doing self-improvement stuff, right? That's just what I do. I'm in metaphysics, quantum physics, all that kind of stuff. And I find that as a group of people that I want to hang out with, contractors as a group are just really good people. I guess that industry attracts those kind of people. Maybe because it's hard, maybe because they have to actually start. Maybe that's a good news, Jonathan, about starting in the trades, right?
Yeah.
Because if you start off wanting to be an attorney, just think where your mindset has to be. If you start off wanting to be a doctor or you want to be a hedge fund manager, right? Where's your head? How much money can I make? How fast, right? When you think about it, contractors start off by wanting to do a good job and help people, really help people. So maybe that's the good news, Jonathan, that because the industry has its roots in craftspeople, we attract way better people than hedge fund managers, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Right?
I don't know what that means for me, because I think I told you on your show, like, from being a little kid, I said I always wanted to either be in the Italian mob or the FBI or CIA, and I couldn't ever find like an application for the mob, so I went into law enforcement. I love that thinking now, like that. They are a good group of people. They're typically honest. The ignorance comes from not knowing what they don't know. And the ones that I like working with the best, Paul, are the ones that go, I don't know this. I want to know it. Like, I want to understand it. I just need someone to, but like,
you're coachable, right? I mean, a wise man learns from, a smart man learns from mistakes, and a wise man learns from the mistakes of others. So it's like, when I think about contractors, if you want to be a plumber or an electrician, you actually want to provide a valuable service. You want to fix somebody's whatever they want to fix. And you don't have this high kind of, I'm going to, make as much money as I can, even if I have to screw people over to get there. It just doesn't attract those kind of people.
Yeah.
And you also attract people. I mean, when you think about the egos of attorneys or lawyers, big issue, right?
Yeah.
They think they're better than everybody else. I used to work with doctors in hospitals. It was, I had one of the largest dental consulting companies in California. It was terrible because the dentist always knows more than you do, right? The doctor. So when you think about it, contractors don't know more than you do. They're not raised to think that way, like of other lot of professions. And there's a humility that comes with this industry, which I think is really worthwhile. It doesn't happen in other industries.
And I was telling someone recently, though, like a lot of that is changing. Like more and more, I meet people that still hold that I'm a doctor, a lawyer, that hold this education as this power thing. And I sit there and go like, why would you think that? Like, you're probably still in debt, and there's some YouTuber out there that's got 100x your wealth. And so like I just don't think it any longer is, the education system is so broken, and I don't know how the universities continue to keep charging more and more and more, how it's sustainable. And I just feel like it's definitely in our lifetime that it's going to.
I think it's good that it's going to collapse. I mean, that's my part, because what will happen is the idea of learning something and having a degree, which allows you to charge people whatever you want to charge them, because I know something you don't, is going to go away.
Yeah.
Because I'll be able to get on my AI attorney or my AI doctor or whatever and find out everything I need to know for, like, if it's not free, it'll be close, right? And so that's going to change education, which I think is a good thing. Now, the problem is, in this society, the trades are not respected, in my opinion, which is sad.
But it may be a great thing if you think about it, because when something becomes super cool and popular, everybody wants to go do it, right? And like we saw I did in my space during COVID, there were hundreds of new marketing companies overnight that specialized in the trades, and it was because COVID had the what were the workers called? They were essential versus non-essential. And because they were part of the essential workforce, they didn't get shut down. All of a sudden, everybody that lost their marketing company doing God knows what said, oh, I do plumbing marketing now. And,
that changed a lot. Right. So, I mean, I'm a thing that I think that, the planet is a being and it's evolving and we're all getting better. And there was an analogy. I was listening to one of a podcast the other day by one of the guys, I forget his name exactly, but he talked about the caterpillar idea, that a caterpillar destroys its environment before it transitions into a butterfly, right? It eats all the food. But then eventually it turns into this mush, and the mush eventually turns into a butterfly, right? So I think we're in the caterpillar phase. We're sort of, in the sixth extinction, we're eating everything up. But I think on the other side of that, things like AI and technology will transform us into a higher consciousness over time, because those people that were using education for blackmail to charge a lot of money won't be able to do it over time.
Okay. Yeah.
I mean, think about it. We're I was looking at 65 or 68% of the people have access to the internet on the planet. That's huge.
Yeah.
If you have access to the internet, you have access to basically all the information on the planet for free. So we're the first generation who everybody has, we're all sort of cyber beings because we have a phone, right? We can access all the information on the planet, and we can either watch, a dumb comedy or attend a class on higher consciousness. It's totally up to you. It's totally up to the individual.
That's right.
So I think that hopefully things will evolve and they will raise consciousness, and more people will become like tradespeople in their value system, rather than saying, it's all about money and power. I think that's going to change. So as an industry, again, I think the trades are a good example of how it's attracted people, in my opinion, with the right moral substance, versus I'm going to be an attorney and charge outrageous fees, and we're going to all sue each other or whatever that's going to be, right?
Do you know much about Neil deGrasse?
Yes, I've listened to some of his stuff, yes.
Yeah, my wife's gotten obsessed with him here lately. And but she was telling me she was listening to him, and that he said there's like a 50-50 chance that we're that we live in a simulation.
Right.
And someone as smart as this guy say that, and people are arguing and fighting over what they are, or this money being, what everyone's chasing. People just can't sit back and think you may be a big science experiment at this point.
Well, not only that, I believe you create your own reality. So somebody believes 100% that we're in a simulation is Elon Musk, right? 100%. Right. He knows that. He's not a stupid guy.
Oh, no.
And so, whether we are or not, I think the upside of considering this as a simulation or something like that is you can control a dream. I mean, I believe, this is my personal belief, that, whether this is a dream or not, you can't prove it whether it is or isn't, right? You may be asleep, you may be awake, who the hell knows? You can't prove it one or the other. But the good news, Jonathan, if you take it, assuming it's a dream, then in a dream, what do you have control over? It depends on whether it's a, what do you call it? Excuse me, a lucid dream or not.
Right.
If it's a lucid dream, you're dreaming, right? So if you're being chased by a monster, you can go, oh, it's a dream, and make the monster turn into a butterfly.
Yeah.
If it's not a lucid dream, you're sort of stuck because you'd be chased by the monster all night long. So I believe that we have control over this, and that your mind, well, my own personal belief is that there's infinite or God, we're going to call that, the force. And that creates, if you look at the analogy, the film strip analogy, you've got a light, you have a film, like the old days, a film strip, you have a lens, and then you have a screen, right? And so everything starts out as indiscriminate energy in the light bulb. It goes to the film strip that gives it form in the form of a film strip, and then the lens gives it focus, ends up on the screen. I think it's the same thing true in this world, that there's God or energy or the force, that the mind or your thoughts are like the film strip, they give it form, right?
Okay.
So your thoughts give it form, and then emotion gives it focus. So if you have an idea and you're emotionally committed to it, it will show up in reality. Did you think about it, Jonathan? Everything you're looking at right now started where? In the room you're in.
Right.
Where did it start?
I mean, it had to start in our mind, right?
It's an idea, right?
Right.
Everything that we created, man's created, started as an idea.
Yeah.
So if you want to change your reality, what do you have to change?
Your thinking.
Absolutely. The coaches I really like always say, well, the con director's biggest problems are between their ears, right? So in order to change your reality, you have to change your thinking. If you're trying to change something you can't change a car by turning the rear view mirror, right? Wrong instrument. So if you're going to change your reality, you have to change the way you think. And now it's easier than ever because you can go to your phone and you can change, how do I get a more positive attitude, or how to raise my consciousness, or how do I learn how to fix my dishwasher? Doesn't matter. You can get quality information if you know how to filter it through intuition on anything you want to do in real time, anytime.
Yep.
So it's probably been easier than ever to succeed because we have all that information available. We just have to learn it and then get emotion behind it and adapt it and take action.
Yeah, and I think there's a certain level of the rate at which technology is being created or distributed, however you want to look at it, and it's going so fast, right? I mean, like, you look back, you said you were a 60s kid, like, you look back, from the 60s, like, I graduated 20 years ago, and I think back, like, the internet was just coming on board, like, at that point in 95, 96, like in that time frame. And then you look at, well, if you just go back 20 years before that, like,
right,
they didn't even know what a cell phone was. Like, there was no, so things are rapidly coming at us. And I feel like, because there's so much information on raising your consciousness and things like that, that they don't want everyone to truly know that. Because if everyone raised their consciousness, then we'd be able to take over the banking industry or the power that's out there. Like, they don't want everyone to be right. So I think there's also a lot of TikTok and, these distractions are put out there of like, right, well, let's.
We have it. You have a choice, though. We all have free will.
Everybody has absolutely.
And we can choose that. Jonathan, reminds me. So when I started in this industry, cell phones, and there was pagers.
Yeah.
There were no cell phones. And I've dragged contractors through technology for literally 50 years. We started off, I remember I talk to contractors about cell phones. And they go, cell phones are destroying my peace of mind in the truck. I went, you should get a cell phone. No, I don't need a cell phone. And then it was the email. Email was a fad, right? It's like, oh, it will go away. And then there were websites. And then nobody needs a website. And then the next one was the latest one before AI was web-based project management, like Build, Train, Co-Construct, Procore. Well, I don't need that. I can use a spreadsheet. Now the latest one is AI, right? And probably the biggest one. You can totally transfer your business through AI. So you just have to listen to it. But contractors as a group are a bit of Luddites, if you know what I mean. They tend to take a while to develop technology. Yet I will tell you that successful in this industry are the people that develop the technology the fastest, whether it's in marketing, recruiting, project management. I mean, if you're out there with a hammer and not a nail gun and you're using a shovel instead of backhoe, you're sort of screwed.
Yeah, you're right.
So I would say my advice to, the people listening to this podcast is go with adapt technology. It will, whether it's in recruiting or marketing, AI is going to change the planet whether you want it to or not. So you can either jump in and use it, or you can fight it. But if you fight it, it's sort of like, are you still digging holes with a shovel or using a backhoe? I mean, it's not going to work.
All right, we are to the part of the show where we're wrapping up, and I'm going to throw rapid fire questions at Paul. Just hit me with the first thing that comes to your mind. You ready?
Okay.
All right. Childhood hero?
Mickey Mouse.
Sunset or sunrise?
Sunrise.
Beach or mountains?
Beach.
Paul believe in aliens?
Absolutely.
The most adventurous thing you've ever done?
Skydiving.
What's your spirit animal?
A lion.
If you had to make a sudden career change, what would it be today?
Minister.
And if you could travel to any fictional world, where would you go?
Good question. I don't know. Maybe Ready Player One or some fantasy world.
I think we may be there. So
we may be there already. Absolutely.
All right. Well, Paul, it has been a pleasure having you on the show. We'll put the information out there in the emails and stuff, but go ahead and let everybody know the best way that they can reach you.
So my personal email is paul@paulsanneman.com. That's my personal email. My personal cell phone is 415-599-9006. To get a hold of the company, if you want to, it's contractorstaffingsource.com.
Okay.
And that tells you all the things we do. And also, if you have, call me. I'll tell you I'll show you how to do it yourself. If you want to do it yourself, I will give you the assessments. I'll give you the tools, show you how to do it yourself. And if you want us to help you, that I can help you do that too. But I mean, you're no better than your team. So if you want to build a better team, give me a call. I can help you do it yourself or show you how we can do it.
I got the notes here. The two most important people for any company are your people and your clients. One comes from recruiting, one comes from marketing. You need to have a budget and a plan in place for both of them. Paul, It's been a pleasure to have you here. Would love to have you back in the future, my friend.
Thanks a lot. I'll be happy to be back, Jonathan.
Thank you.